Welcome to the Pathless Travel Podcast. This week, we feature the CEO of Gibson, Tim Leman. Tim, thanks for joining us today.
Great. Thanks for having me on, man.
People know a lot about you. You did a blog. You've been on podcasts. You post on social media. What's something people don't know about Tim Leman?
When I ask that question of guests and I have on the podcast, it's tough for some of them to put themselves out there, and I do a lot of that out there. Something that's it's probably not a deep thing, but it's more of a personal passion. Is I want to go to all 7 continents, and so I've been to 5 continents. I have not been to Antarctica and Australia, and my family and I were supposed to go to Antarctica right towards at the end of 2023, and I ended up having some health challenges that were unanticipated. And so we had to push it forward to this year, but we're going to Antarctica in December this year, and then looking at Australia in 2027. So I'm super excited about that. I just love exploring new things and checking things out and doing unique things like that. And when I thought that that's something I wanted to do, I didn't think my family would be really into it. I thought maybe my sons would be up for going. And it turned out the whole family wanted to go. So my daughter and my wife think this is a great idea too. So we're all going. And then I got challenged by another buddy, say, well, because of where you've traveled, you've probably set foot in, several of the oceans. And are you going to get in the South Ocean when you're in Antarctica? And this trip that we're going on, that's one of the things they do, Craig, is they kind of take you down this little stairway next to the ship. And they tether you up, and they've got a doctor on site to drop you. And of course, it's in December, it's summertime, so it's a balmy 25, 30 degrees out. But because I'm getting into that, I figure, I guess I need to find a way to get to all 5 oceans too.
Door to door, what's the travel time?
It's pretty brutal. I think we fly to JFK and then down to Santiago, Chile, and then puddle jumper down to the tip of Chile, and then this transport plane across the Drake Passage to land on Antarctica, and then we get on the boat. So it's 17, 18 hours, something like that. In fact, we're splitting it into 2 different days. They said it was pretty tough to pull it off in a single day.
You are obsessed with culture as a leader. Why is that?
I've never been asked that before. It feels like a lot of it is instinctive to me. I guess I've always enjoyed people a lot. I think back to when I was even I got in trouble in 6th grade. Maybe my older brother was a sophomore, and he and his friends were going out to throw eggs at people, things, cars, whatever. And I left the house with them about midnight, and we went out to this overpass over I-69 near Fort Wayne, and we started just bombing eggs off the top on cars that were going below. And there were actually plenty of cars at that time of night. And so when the next day, my little girlfriend from 6th grade, I had to tell people about this. So I telling her all about this. My mom overheard on the phone. We all got in trouble, and I never got asked to go on these raids with my brother again. So I got all them in trouble. But what I realized when I look back on stuff is I never enjoyed doing things just by myself. It's like if it's by myself, did it even happen? So I had to tell somebody about her experience with it. And I think through my whole life, whether it's sports in high school, college, joining and helping grow the insurance business fraternity, Gamma Iota Sigma that I was in at Indiana State, it just was always better doing it with other people. And so I think that's something that just a love for team victory and doing it with others versus individual has just always been a part of who I am.
Well, tell us about Gibson.
Gibson, oh man, it's been one of the most important things in my life over the last almost 19 years now. When I came here, my wife really wanted to move back to the Midwest. We were living out in Phoenix. I was with one of the national brokers. I was looking for something different. I wanted to lead an organization, and this seemed like a good fit, although it was tough, kind of coming back to the Midwest, and coming back to a minor league baseball city after living in a Major League Baseball city. And it took us a few years, I say us, Gibson and me, to get used to each other. And there were some rough days those first couple of years. I thought a lot more of myself and my leadership skills than was reality. And I got that cold reality here, but also Gibson needed to refresh and adapt and move forward as well. And so after a couple of years of a lot of friction, we were able to do that together. And what I love about it now is I have a degree in insurance. I'm an insurance nerd. I have a Bachelor of Science in Insurance and Risk Management from Indiana State, which not a lot of people have. But I've probably never been one to want to be on the front cover of business insurance. I'd prefer to be on the cover of a leadership magazine or something like that, I guess. So insurance is just really that vehicle. It was one of the best businesses and industries to be connected to a lot of people. And so that's what I love. I get to come in here every day and, be a part of supporting this team to do great things and seeing people succeed and grow. And that's just super fulfilling for me. I started out in sales, Craig, and I think in my core, I'm still a sales jockey. I think I relate to salespeople really well. Most of the years when I was selling and had, goals and production goals, I was at the top of the leaderboard or really close to the top almost like every single year, even like right out of college. But as fun as that was and challenging, it didn't give me nearly the same level of joy and so on as I started getting into like player coach roles and putting teams together and working alongside them and seeing the leveraging that occurs when 2 or 3 people are working together and can achieve something bigger. And that's when I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And Gibson really provided that opportunity to lean in, 100% into the leadership side of things.
So what's unique about Gibson? And then also what's next for Gibson?
Yeah. What's unique about Gibson? I've worked at 2 of the national firms in our industry, 3 summer internships. So I've been able to see inside a lot of places, and I also really involved within our industry and like trade group and everything. So I see a lot of that. This is really, I'm so biased about this, but I do believe it to be true. It's really this incredibly unique collection of great human beings as a starting point. I mean, it's people that, I trust my kids with them. I would put myself in their hands. They work hard. They're passionate. They're high character people. And so it's all about the people. And like a small anecdotal story about that is I remember, it's probably, I'm going to say 5 years, it's maybe been 8 years ago now, when we implemented our summer Fridays. So it was way before flexibility was like everybody's doing it. We decided that between Memorial and Labor Day, we would close the office at 3:00 on Fridays, and give people a little bit of a head start. And this is about the dedication of our team. And I just remember some of our longtime client service managers just kind of losing their minds. Who's going to take care of our clients? What about 3:15 when there's an accident or they need something? And we had to say, well, what about, and we were doing this for them, and yet they were the ones they didn't want to leave their post. Like, well, what happens at 5:15? Well, they call the salesperson's cell phone. I go, I think they'll do that at 3:15 and we'll be okay. But when you look at something like that, where you're going to, every Friday for an entire summer, you can get a 2-hour head start in the summer. And we have a predominantly female workforce, 70-75%. And women carry the burden of everything at home, right? They're the ones getting ready for the lake weekend. They're the ones going out and doing the shopping or whatever. And to get a 2-hour head start was great. And they didn't want to leave their post. They were almost like upset about this. Who's going to take care of people? And that, when you get to have a foundation to start with of those type of people, you can just accomplish, really great things together.
Well, you've clearly surrounded yourself with people in your life that have, taken your character, your skill set, your talents to another level. Who's somebody that believed in you at any point in your life that come to mind? And what was that impact like?
Yeah, Craig, I could. We don't have enough time to go through all of them. Every point of my life, every step along the way, I've had somebody or multiple people looking out for me that cleared the path, that set me on the right course, and so on. And one of them in particular, though, that I'll say is a guy named Jim Spooler. And when I got out of college, Jim had been running a national. He had a national level role at one of the national brokers. Merged in. It was A&A, merged in with Aon. And so most of the A&A guys and gals got fired when the merger happened. And Jim was running the Midwest, and they said, well, you can go back to Indianapolis and whip it into shape for Aon if you want. So pretty significant demotion, I guess you could say. And I was fresh out of college and thought a lot of myself, and I'm making calls one day, and he walked by, and he was always buzzing around at 100 miles an hour. He heard me on the phone with the prospect, and he was like, next time you're talking to somebody, say this, don't say that, whatever, and walked off. And I'm like, I'm the number one draft pick here, buddy. Like, who are you? He's my boss's boss. But grew to like Jim a ton. Realized I played golf in high school against my father-in-law. And he took a liking to me. A couple of years later, Jim didn't last long there. He moved on, but was really good friends with my team. And my wife and I wanted to go just live somewhere else. We looked at Atlanta, Denver, and Phoenix. I asked Jim for help. He knew everybody. And he said, I'm gonna harm a relationship with your boss, who I've known for years, but I will do this for you because it's the right thing. But you got to sit on this for 30 days. And if you're serious about it, we're going to meet for lunch, and I'll make calls. We had lunch, said, yes, I want to leave. I want to do this. I want to leave Indianapolis. And I didn't even get the 20-minute drive from Broad Ripple to downtown. And I already had calls from, 2 national brokers saying, hey, we're supposed to book you for a flight. When can you come out? So, and that ended up being a game-changing opportunity that I landed in Phoenix because of him. And I remember trying to thank him. I had an opportunity to earn more than I ever thought I'd earned in my life. I had this great role living in a city like Phoenix. It was super cool. And I think he was a big golfer, and I think I bought him a golf shirt and whatever. And he's like, hey, this is nice, and I'm going to wear it. Thank you. But when you're going to be in a position, and when you are, to help the next Tim, just do that. And you'll have paid me back plenty.
Well, you clearly have put habits in place for your life and just how you operate. I know we've had great conversations about what that looks like and how that maybe has evolved for you over the last 12 months. What are some habits that you have that just guide your life?
Yeah. So I've experimented with this a little bit over the years and have come back to some things that have worked really well for me. So I'm a morning person, but I find that even if you aren't, it's so important to kind of get started, right in the morning. So one of the things is that I get some exercise in the morning. And even if I'm planning on doing something, playing basketball or something pretty physical in the evening or whatever, I still need to get like a walk in or get a bike ride in or get on the treadmill in the mornings. So that, and then, eating right too. So I kind of look at it like I need to sweat, and I need to get my heart rate up, and then I need to get some fruit and protein like on that end. Something that I've taken to over the last 6 months is doing a devotional in the morning as well. And that's not something I've been good at over the years. But I found a really good, app for that, and play it on audio and everything. So I love to get started that way as well. The night before, also, I'll usually just make sure I take a look at my calendar. Some people spend a lot more time planning the next day, but I give it a good look. I only need 5 minutes, 10 minutes, think about what's coming the next day and making sure that I can get that done. And actually, let me go back to the morning part too. So, sweat, get my heart rate up, get some protein and fruit, devotional, and then something to make me smarter too. So every day, I like to read something, even if it's it's a couple paragraphs, or it's an article or whatever, just trying to learn something and just get that learn something new, think about something a little bit differently.
Okay, so then on the topic of reading, let's put you in the frame of mind in which you are, making that long trip in December. What books are you bringing with?
Yeah, I don't have that one lined up yet, but I could answer it this way: a couple things that I love reading though, Greg, and some books I've read recently. So I love there's a gentleman named Shane Parrish, and I think he was in Canada's version of the CIA, whatever that is. And just really interesting life story there. And then built this company called Farnham Street, and then pushes out this blog once a week. I think it's on Sundays, called Farnham Street Blog. And it's incredible snippets of so many different things. You can click in and go deep dive or grab the highlights of that. And so I love keeping up on that every week. Shane just wrote a book called Clear Thinking. And I think the title of the book doesn't do it justice. It's too bland for this. Probably one of the best books, a collection in 6 hour read, probably. Just amazing wisdom, and highly recommend that book. The other thing for me recently, I have 2 books that I've read. One's called Driven by Doug Brackman. And I'm a highly driven, achievement junkie kind of person. Always have been. It's propelled me in sales. It's propelled me in everything I do. I'm really competitive, but with myself. And with that has come really good things, I think, for myself, my family, my company, for Gibson. But in there, he talks a lot about that sometimes that can leave you feeling empty, always chasing the next success and the next achievement, and learning how to kind of morph that in and turn it off and be at peace when, that the game doesn't need to always be on that. And that, coupled with another buddy suggested this book called From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks. And that's really interesting too. And so I'm turning 50 in September. Had a health scare last year. I had hip replacement surgery, which just made me feel old. And then ended up discovering I had this tumor in my colon. I thought I had colon cancer for about 60 days, and was preparing to go through all of that. And then it turned out to be this mass that was growing that didn't have anything to do with cancer. So just this incredible situation, and it baffled all my surgeons and my gastro doc and everything. So all of that's had me reflecting a lot. And so this strength, from strength to strength, this Arthur Brooks, when he was 50, was kind of feeling this way. He was CEO of a big organization in Washington, D.C., and he'd been a college professor and other things. And he was kind of feeling that about middle age. And so he took him like 7 years, though, he researched to write this book. And what he talked about in this, Greg, is really, really interesting. Probably applies to a lot of folks. But this idea that when you're younger, you have something called fluid intelligence. And this is a little depressing, the first couple of chapters, because he scientifically lays out that that's at its best around 30, 35, maybe 40. And he's like, there are no Nobel Prize winners that are much over 31 years old because of the computation speed and processing in your brain that's required. So that fades over time. And if you've built whatever career you have on fluid intelligence, it's going to wane, much like probably an athlete wanes, right? You're a college basketball player. The guys that did it because they were leaping and jumping and they're really quick, that fades and they don't last as long. The 3-point shooters, if they're good at that, can run it out till they're 40, right? Yeah. Same kind of thing. And then what you develop later and on that continues to grow, it's called crystallized intelligence. And so it's about kind of going from being the innovator to being the synthesizer of things, and being from the doer to being the coach and leaning into all the wisdom that comes with it. So really cool book that's kind of had me reflecting a lot as well on that. But what I'm reading right now, and actually listening to on audio, is a book called Endurance, which is about Shackleton led this expedition to the Antarctica. And since I'm going there at the end of the year, I wanted to get in on this. And it's like the biggest failure ever. He didn't go across Antarctica. Their ship got stuck in ice. It got broken apart, and they floated on this iceberg for like days, hoping the wind would take them. They got down, they had to kill all their dogs, and the dog sleds, they were living on seals and all kinds of things like that. And he led all 27 of his crew. They all survived. The ship didn't survive. So he didn't get there. He didn't accomplish anything, but he's thought of today as like one of the greatest. Jim Collins talked about one of the greatest, leaders ever. So anyway, there's a few of the things I'm reading right now, but December's a long ways away, so I don't know what I'll be into by then.
Well, you mentioned, having the health scare for 60 days there with the colon cancer. What did you learn during that time frame?
Man, it was I'm still absorbing it. It's still it's been 6 months since then, and I'm still thinking through all those things because one thing in particular, though, that's why those 2 books I had mentioned, Driven and From Strength to Strength, are really interesting me right now, is I've been going so hard for so long. I can't imagine doing it any other way. Like, I'm not wired to sit around and do nothing. And I've been really purposeful and intentional about my family, with both my wife and my kids. I spend a lot of time with them. I think they would tell you that if you ask them. But even with that, it made me think about what's really most important in life. And, another work success, another thing doesn't really matter much. When all that took place, I just wanted to be around them. I wanted to be around my family. I mean, my mom came and stayed with us. I mean, she came and stayed with me for my hip replacement, which was pretty awesome, being doted over by mom and my wife again. But she came back again and stayed another, week or two and all that. And it was just so cool. It gave us some really cool bond to kind of reconnect and rethink things. So what I'm learning right now, and I don't have it all figured out, is I don't need to be at the level of intensity that I've been, like, always 24/7, and that I can channel that when I need to, and because I'm always going to be that person, but I'm learning to turn it off in moments and set it all aside and not think about it, not think about work like that. Just let my mind go and then just be more present. Always been so focused on the future and planning ahead and getting this whole big, long, this vision and everywhere I'm going. And so I'm learning to be a lot more present in the moment right now. But it's not easy, man. Not easy.
Yeah, you've got this rookie mindset that, you're always looking to break through in each moment. And it's like, what's next and what's next and what's next, and not just proving yourself. And now Gibson's at, I don't know, let's call it around 170 employees. You've achieved a lot. What are you most proud of? And that could be personal or professional.
I'm I hate to say the word proud, but I know what you mean when you ask it that way. Like, I'm grateful for my marriage, 27 years, and can't imagine life without Kimra and that partnership. Grateful for the relationship we have with our kids. They either fake it really well or they actually like being around us. They say they do. They're great, and we so enjoy the time we get to spend with them, and they bring their friends into our lives and all that. And I'm really proud of everybody at Gibson too. Just seeing what all these great people have done with their lives, thinking that maybe Gibson's a small part of what makes their lives go well. Like during the pandemic, it was clear to me that we were one of the few stable things in some of our employees' lives. They were concerned about their spouse's job, their kids, the homeschooling, all the pressures and everything. And we were like one of the few things that were really stable. A lot of our peer insurance agencies pulled out the great financial crisis playbook, and we were on this emergency call with 20 other agencies in late February, I think, and they were already freezing 401ks and doing all kinds of stuff. Well, we had one of our worst profitability years ever in 2020. We hired people. We didn't cut anybody, and I'm glad that we did things the way we did. And so to see all that, to see where we came from with, the Gibson family, Greg Downs and so on, to continue to be so involved in our communities. And I'm really proud about a decision we made a long time ago too, to be an employee-owned organization. And we were always employee-owned, but to put an ESOP in place, it owns over a third of the company, and to gift ownership out to our people. If those that have begun to retire and in the future when those retirements happen, it's like having a pension and a 401k. It doesn't exist anymore. Long after I'm gone, and I'll never know about it, but that's going to make a difference in people's lives going forward, and their children and their grandchildren and so on. It's life-changing kind of stuff. And going back to team victory, that feels pretty great.
Yeah, it's clear that you spent time in your life reflecting being grateful for what you have, where you're at today. What advice would you give to a younger Tim? Or what advice do you give your boys?
There you go. Yeah, we talk about this a lot.
And your daughter.
And my daughter, yeah. The middle one, we had lunch yesterday. He's doing an internship in South Bend this summer. And he was laying things out. I mean, being intentional is super important. And we do it nowadays formally with the company with EOS, kind of espouses this, but I think I've always kind of been doing it. But having some kind of long-term 10-year vision, 10-year thinking, something that's out there that seems insurmountable, it seems big, because what it does is it pushes you to become something. It gets you out of your comfort zone. You make different choices when you're thinking long-term. When you're worried about next week, next month, next quarter, you think short-term, you make short-term decisions, and those aren't always the best, because most of the greatest things in life, we all see everything on TV and news, whatever, about all these overnight wonders and overnight sensations. But most of us, success is earned over the long haul, and it's one step in front of the next and the next and the next. In fact, a lot of steps backwards. So that intentionality and having that kind of true north that you're pointed towards, that you're going towards, is huge. Habits are absolutely huge as well. Chasing specific goals can get into this loop where, it's painful and you don't always get there and things come in the way. But if you do the right things over time, I have this advice for salespeople all the time, because I've seen it. I've been a part of it myself. I hated cold calling. I never liked doing any of that stuff, but I forced myself to do it. And if you just have this discipline of these small little habits every day, whatever those might be for you, you're going to ultimately get where you want to go, and you're going to have a different return on luck. There's a lot of people that walk around that feel sorry for themselves, and they truly have gone through some terrible things in life. And there's others that seem like they were born on third base. But wherever you're at, Jim Collins went through and did this research and study that you either dampen the influence of bad luck or you amplify the good luck when you're positioning yourself well and you're doing all the right things. The only way you can do that is consistently to be doing these little small things. And then when the good luck comes, because that luck is luck. Luck happens to all of us. I mean, geez, I've stepped into some opportunities I had no business being in, and they happen. But to be ready for it,
right? Put
the sails out with the wind behind your back. And likewise, when the bad luck comes, and it's going to come, it doesn't hurt as bad. It's not as tough. You don't fall as far, if you're doing all the right things. So that intentionality and daily habits, I think, are two just huge things. And the third thing I would say, though, is I've, again, been blessed, wired this way, maybe nurtured this way, really competitive spirit that in me manifests itself as this very, very resilient, practical optimist kind of person. And there's so many things that have happened to me where I can tell you, I did promise you, I am absolutely not the most talented person on the team, not the smartest, not the best at any of these things. But I stayed in the game one play longer than everybody else, and it made all the difference. And so just not giving up. And that's not the same as continuing to beat your head against the wall and do something stupid again and again and again. Adapt, pivot, do whatever. Just don't stop playing the game. And if you stay in the game, something's going to happen. Something good's going to happen to you. Too many people throw in the towel too early. If they would just one more play would have made a huge difference.
Yeah, it creates that Jim Collins, the inflection point. And it's this discipline act over a period of time that you're just kind of pushing and pushing and pushing. And then it just creates this flywheel. And it's like, wow, we want to look at that success. And it wasn't overnight. And all the people internally know it wasn't overnight.
That's right.
Two final questions for you. If you had a billboard, what would your message be?
I think, Craig, it might be that. It's that, just keep the game going. Don't stop playing the game. One more play, something like that. I mean, and I know I just said all those things, but so many people that hang in there, just hang in there, and something will break and pop loose and open up for you.
What's one of the most worthwhile investments that you've made in your life? Time, money, effort, energy?
the investment in my family. I mean, my dad has told me this over the years. He also told me we should have had a lot more children, that we make good parents, and we owed the earth more of them. And he's kind of interesting, funny that way, but I also appreciate what he said. I think it's a really great compliment. But that is a responsibility that we have, is to not, that your kids like you or not, it's not the important thing. And you're not there to be their friend. You're there to produce some good human beings on the planet, and that's worth everything. And then if you can also end up having some sort of a great relationship with those great little human beings too, it's so fulfilling and satisfying. But they go on to do great things and influence other people and help other people too. So, I've made sacrifices over the years. Love my wife, and that was always a huge priority. And enjoyed the competitiveness and the achievement orientation around business. So I put a lot into that, and then I put a lot into my family. And that came at the cost, though, too. Over the years, I'm such a relationship person, but I've gotten away from nurturing some of my personal relationships, and that kind of sucks now looking back on it. Not that they're terrible or bad, but I didn't keep them up the way I should have or could have. And also, I've realized I'm the galvanizer. I'm the ringleader of a lot of my friend groups from the past. And I always kept us together. When I had to let something slip and slide to fit in all that I wanted to with my family and Gibson, that's what I chose to do. And when I stopped organizing the guys' weekends and all that, they didn't happen anymore. And so it probably cost all of us that. But I'm working on leaning back into those and regenerating some of those again. And it takes a lot of work, but it's fun as well. But I have no regrets, though, of putting time into the most important humans in my life. With my wife and my 3 kids.
Well, what final thoughts do you have about Gibson that you want to share, or just leadership in general?
Well, I said it, I think, before, but I do feel so fortunate to have been given this opportunity so many years ago to have Dave Gibson and Greg Downs believe in me and let me make a lot of mistakes. And, Greg and I probably couldn't be any different in so many things in so many ways, other than we shared this work ethic and drive, and I think this high character and integrity. But so I did things exactly how he would not do them, and he still let me do them and all that. And that's put me in a spot to be where I am today, and just so grateful to have this opportunity with such great people. We're doing big things. We're making a difference in our clients' lives. We're making a difference in our employees' lives. And don't sleep on us. There's so many great things ahead, and I just feel really grateful to be a part of it all.
Well, I do want to thank you. You've made a huge impact in my life and the life of my family. Quick story. When you were recruiting me here, I met with you, and when we drove back to Cincinnati, the next day or the day after, we woke up, we went out on the front porch, and there was just this box of things in there. And we opened it up, and it was a gift for my son. I think it was a stuffed animal. We had just had our first boy. It was some things to enjoy, some desserts from the local community, because I'm a local guy. And then there was a personal letter, and it was addressed to my wife and I. And that personal touch is something that it just wasn't a to get me here thing. It's been an enduring thing. So I want to thank you for the impact that you've had on my life and my family's life, and just for doing this. I know it's going to be a hit. People want to learn more about great leaders, and you absolutely are that. So thank you for doing this.
You're too kind on all of that. I guess this is an appropriate time to give a shout out to our mutual buddy, Congressman Yakum, for connecting us. But man, I that's the thing I get to do anymore. I spend most of my time out on the tip of the spear recruiting and talking to awesome people. And you're one of those, and I could tell right away you're somebody that would help make us better and be a leader here. And you've exceeded all those expectations already.
Well, thank you, Tim. Well, that's it for this week's episode of The Path Less Traveled with the CEO of Gibson, Tim Leman. Until next week, have a great day.
Thanks, Craig.